is a new hour here on Live Now from Fox. I'm your host, Christina Evans. Your time is now 7 a.m. on the East Coast and still 4 in the morning there on the West Coast. We're going to be diving into today's top stories as well. And of course, this is the biggest news coming into you as you're waking up this morning. President Trump's reciprocal tariffs are set to begin on August 7th. I want to put up this post that we have from Rapid Response 47. They're part of the Trump administration on their X account. They put a link out to an article saying they are further modifying the reciprocal tariff rates. And so what we do know is that dozens of countries have been facing tariffs and that new deadline now following President Trump's signature on an executive order. Today's deadline for countries to reach a deal had been pushed back to next Thursday, giving the government more time to adjust those rates. Ultimately, though, overnight, the president ordered 35% tariffs for Canada, while Mexico was given a 90-day extension to reach a deal. Let's now check in with Fox's Doug Luzader. He has the very latest on these tariffs and what you can expect as you're waking up this morning.
The administration has been holding firm to this deadline overnight, but it looks like it may be another week before many of these tariffs kick in, even as some say they're already feeling the impact. At this New York City toy store, all sales are now final, closing after more than 40 years. Done in, the owner says, primarily by online competition, but the threat of tariffs was too much.
The tariffs was what did me in. It was the final nail in the coffin.
At midnight, many of the long-delayed tariffs the president promised back in April were finally set to kick in, but implementation has been pushed back another week to deal with logistics.
We're making a lot of deals. We're making deals for trillions and trillions. Nobody's ever seen anything quite like it.
The president yesterday pointed to deals he's already made with big U.S. trading partners like Japan and the European Union, with more to come. Mexico just got another delay on its tariffs, and the Treasury Secretary reported progress in talks with China.
I believe that we have the makings of a deal.
The skeptics say this will slow the economy and lead to inflation.
It's all talk, no substance. All hat, no cattle, and raises the costs for average Americans.
North of the border, we're already seeing an impact. At this Toronto store, you can still buy wine, but you'll walk right past a sign that says U.S. products are no longer available. And Canada got a hike in tariffs overnight because the president says the country hasn't done enough to cut down on drug trafficking. In Washington, Doug Luzader, Fox News.
All right, our thanks to Doug Luzader for that report showing you this live vantage point that we have there in Washington, D.C. at the White House. So ultimately, we do know that President Trump signed that executive order last night to impose the tariffs between 15 and 41% on goods shipped to the U.S. from more than 67 countries. This ratcheted up those tariff costs to the highest level in more than a century at this point. It is important to note, though, this morning that those tariff and those new duties won't go into effect until August 7th. This now is giving countries yet another window to try to negotiate them down. And so we're going to continue to follow this as we're getting some responses as well, including Prime Minister Mark Carney putting out this statement on his X account a few hours ago in response to those new tariffs. I want to read this out in part for you, saying that President Trump has announced that the United States will increase its tariffs to 35% on those Canadian exports that are not covered under the Canada-United States-Mexico agreement. While the Canadian government is disappointed by this action, we remain committed to this agreement, which is the world's second largest free trade agreement by trading volume. It does go on to say that while we will continue to negotiate with the United States on our trading relationship, the Canadian government is laser focused on what we can control, building Canada strong. The federal government, provinces, and territories are working together to cut down trade barriers to build one Canadian economy. We're developing a series of major nation-building projects with our provincial, territorial, and Indigenous partners. Together, these initiatives have the potential to catalyze over $500 billion in new investments for Canada. Canadians will be our best customer, creating more well-paying careers at home as we strengthen and diversify our trading partnerships throughout the world. We can give ourselves more than any foreign government can ever take away by building with Canadian workers and by using Canadian resources to benefit all Canadians. Again, that was the statement that was put out on the X account just a few hours ago in response to this change in tariffs from President Trump as well. So we'll continue to watch today as we're getting more response from other nation leaders as well. Also, though, I want to take the time to put this up on your screen as another live look at the White House. We also know that we heard from President Trump up early this morning making remarks on his Truth Social as it pertains to the economy as well. Putting this up on your screen now, this is from his Truth Social account saying, Jerome, quote, too late Powell, a stubborn moron, must substantially lower interest rates now. If he continues to refuse, the board should assume control and do what everyone knows has to be done. Of course, this is just the very latest in the conversation and back and forth between President Trump and the current Fed Chair Jerome Powell. We've been watching the two as they disagreed on monetary policy, with President Trump asking Jerome Powell several times to lower the interest rates. Of course, Powell saying that his decision-making is independent of any presidential policies. So we'll continue to keep up with the very latest as it pertains to that here on Live Now from Fox.
We do have this statement as we stay in the Middle East from the U.S. State Department. They are talking about this Iranian State threat. They say, quote, we are united in our opposition to the attempts of Iranian intelligence services to kill, kidnap, and harass people in Europe and North America in clear violation of our sovereignty. These services are increasingly collaborating with international criminal organizations to target journalists, dissidents, Jewish citizens, and current and former officials in Europe and North America. This is unacceptable. We consider these types of attacks, regardless of the target, as violations of our sovereignty. We are committed to working together to prevent these actions from happening, and we call on the Iranian authorities to immediately put an end to such illegal activities in our respective territories, end quote. And that is, of course, a quote, as I mentioned, from the U.S. State Department. We do also have this post from the Bureau of Counterterrorism as they say, we are united in our opposition to the attempts of Iranian intelligence services to kill, kidnap, and harass people in Europe and North America in clear violation of our sovereignty. We know that the U.S. and 13 of their allies, including the UK and Canada, coming together to condemn what they call a surge in assassination, kidnapping, and harassment plots by Iranian intelligence services that are targeting people in North America and Europe. A lot to discuss there out of the Middle East, so I do want to bring in David Dowd, Senior Fellow at the Foundation for Defense of Democracies.